75 days ago on June 5th in 2025, Nintendo's long-awaited Switch 2 hit the shelves. Early demand was humongous. Nintendo sold more than 3.5 million units in just the first 4 days, making it the fastest-selling console in the company's history. And this pitch was simple: bigger screen, faster guts, magnetic Joy-Cons. But now that we've had some time to live with it, have they actually delivered what's been promised almost 3 months ago? Well, yes and no. But if you think the Switch 2 is just a minor refresh, think again. From a larger 7.9-inch display and magnetic Joy-Cons to DLSS-powered upscaling and built-in game chat, this system hides both delights and disappointments. So we're going to go over the ergonomics, durability, battery issues, games, and accessories, just to mention a few. But before we do all that, to celebrate 75 days with the Switch 2, we're giving away a custom Switch-like console and bag. To enter, all you have to do is subscribe, like, and comment your favorite Switch 2 feature or failure. Details are at the end of the video. So how does it feel? Here is the original Switch. The Switch 2 is definitely larger than the original and even the OLED model. With the bigger display, it feels much more robust and more comfortable, especially if you've got adult-sized hands. But it is thin. It's sleek, and here's really the thing about that. After about 35 minutes of gaming, with my larger hands at least, I started wishing I had a bit more. Donk on the back. I mean, just look at the PS Portal and those pork chops. Now that's grip. But for me, the Switch 2 is a little thin. I'd recommend one of these grip cases. Now, the Joy-Cons don't slide on rails anymore. Instead, they snap on magnetically. They're bigger, sturdier, and that magnetic latch is just, satisfying. But here's the reality. I still get hand cramps due to the size of the console, and for longer gaming sessions, I'd actually recommend a third-party controller like the 8BitDo Ultimate V2. Now, I know comfort's going to be pretty subjective, and some reviewers point out there's nowhere to rest your bottom 3 fingers, so they'd end up bunching together kind of awkwardly. And without any grip molding like you get on the Steam Deck or ROG Ally, you're gonna get a little bit tired after longer gaming sessions. But how does it look? Nintendo ditched OLED and went back to LCD. That's a bit of a heartbreak, but hey. The screen is bigger and the games are more immersive. You're getting 720 to 1080p and some titles pushing 4K docked. Brightness lands around 400 nits, which is fine for indoors but struggles in harsh sunlight. And until I put a few other switches next to this device, I didn't really know how much HDR made a difference, and when you see them next to the old OLED, you can clearly see that there is a bit of a difference. But honestly, the screen melts away once you start playing, and it's not a problem when you're gaming on the go. If you really want a better panel, hook it up to your TV. That's what the dock's for. Now, will it last? Those new magnetic Joy-Cons feel sturdy, but rip them off too hard and you could mess up the housing. Now, with that in mind, the detachment mechanism works great and is honestly very satisfying to magnetically latch and unlatch your Joy-Cons. I could see people doing this too many times. And on the plus side, the U-shaped kickstand is way better made, and luckily out of metal this time. But I'd recommend using 2 fingers from the center to open this thing. It is still a little bit finicky. And they moved the USB-C port to the top and gave you another one on the bottom, so you can actually charge and play while you're laying down. It's very nice for the couch. Will it die? Nintendo claims 2 to 6.5 hours of battery life, but the reality is it's closer to 2 or 4. Less if you're pushing something heavy, but something like Stardew Valley, about 3 hours. Mario Kart World, just over 2. Cyberpunk 2077, a little more than 2, but best case scenario is with lighter games. You might scrape around 5 hours there. But let's be real, most of us are seeing 3, maybe 4, which honestly, compared to other handhelds running the same games, is totally fine. I can usually get 1 session in before charging, but definitely less than the Switch 1. Just grab a battery bank with PD like this one from SharGeek, which I have the link below, and you'll totally be fine. So what can I plug in? The dock has a LAN port now and USB-A slots, but it pushes DisplayPort over USB-C. That means VRR isn't working right now, and if you're plugged into a fancy gaming monitor, it doesn't work. look for that in handheld mode. Now, other than the new fancy cartridge slot, we have a change in storage. The internals are 256 gigs, but here's the catch. It only supports micro SD card express, which are a little more expensive than the regular ones due to their faster speeds. But for other ports, it's really all the same that the Switch 1 had. And over the 75 days I've seen so far, the magnetic Joy-Cons have had no issues going back on and off with the pins on the inside of the console. I haven't seen any issues whatsoever. Can I touch that? Speaking of the Joy-Cons, the Joy-Con 2 added a new C button and even optical sensors that let the controller work like a mouse. Well, after these 75 days, in practice it's kind of awkward. It was like the 3D function on the 3DS. It's cool to see, and once you use it and realize that the software isn't there yet, it's just kind of a feature that people have to build into. So this feature might be used later on, but for now, it's just got Drag X Drive and a few demos. I haven't really used it once in a regular gaming session. There is also a dedicated chat button that instantly launches game chat if you pay for that. Yeah, so otherwise, it's just a shiny, useless button. But it is there. So if you use it, it's nice. If you don't, it's just something that I wish was remappable. Now let's talk about magnets. Over the 75 days, I haven't seen no issues with the magnets here. They feel solid, and the controllers look like they're going to hold up pretty well. And they also have HD Rumble too, which is pretty cool. They've redesigned how their rumble pack works and can do a lot more intensity varying. In addition to that, we have bigger SL and SR buttons which help while playing sideways if you're using the Joy-Con singularly. Still, if you're serious about long sessions, I would just grab another controller. It's going to be more comfortable, and now you can use programmable paddles on the Pro controller too, which is nice and has those fancy new HD Rumble features. And speaking of the Pro controller, here's a new section that I'd like to call Clicky versus Squishy Fight. First up, we have the A, B, X, Y buttons that are clicky and muted. The D-pad is the same and split up into a cardinal direction and is clicky. The sticks are just regular joysticks and have a click, while the rest of the face buttons, home, screen caps, plus, minus, and chat are all clicky, with the only buttons feeling squishy being the matching SL, SR, and ZL and ZR buttons, while the power, volume rocker, and last L and R buttons are clicky. It's a knockout round for the clicky here, and the squishy lives to fight another day. On to software. So how does this work? Well, the home screen looks familiar, just a little more slick. Rounded icons, better accessibility options, and even little haptics when you move around. Subtle and superb. There are also functions now like Game Share that lets you lend digital games to nearby friends from the Switch 2 only. Can't share the other way around, which is cool, but not like the DS, which you could do either way. Other than that, everything seems relatively the same, and after these 75 days, this is pretty much the same old Switch that we've had. But it also now has Game Chat, which is Nintendo's big new flex. Built-in voice and video. You can even plug in a webcam, but after March 2026, it goes behind a Switch Online paywall. Oof. Another feature set ready to die. I know we paid for these features back when Xbox made Xbox Live, but it's just not needed here. Discord's free. Other than that, what can it run? Inside, the custom NVIDIA T239 chip is a big leap. 3 times the RAM, wider bus, and a better GPU. You can hit 4K 60 docked and even 120 FPS at lower res in handheld at 1080p, which is great, and this is really where DLSS really does a lot of the heavy lifting, making Split Fiction and Warframe look surprisingly good for a handheld. And older Switch games get a free boost with updates if you got the online Switch service. So Breath of the Wild feels new and fancy once again. But that said, it's still a 20-watt tablet, so you have to keep that in mind. So Steam Deck, ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion Go, they all just outmuscle it. But none of those can run Mario, Donkey Kong, or Zelda natively. Speaking of games, what can this thing play? Well, backwards compatibility here is excellent. Nearly every Switch 1 game runs better here. Nintendo absolutely crushed the backwards compatibility. Pick up any of these Switch 1 titles with a used cartridge and just enjoy the old Nintendo games, because the exclusives are really Nintendo's jam. So what about the new console exclusives? It's their bread and butter, right? Well, slim pickings so far. You've got Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and Fast Fusion. and some Zelda upgrade packs, with other games getting ported like Cyberpunk, Hogwarts Legacy, Hitman, and these ports are just fine. They work, but we're still waiting on the big wave of Nintendo first-party magic to make this whole thing feel like a big reason to go out and buy it. We need a new Smash. The regular one feels pretty old now. So let's hit a pros and cons list real quick. For the pros, we have a bigger screen and better audio, beefier hardware with DLSS and 4K docked, fantastic backwards compatibility, game chat and game share built in, magnetic Joy-Cons with HD Rumble 2, 256 gigs of storage, and expandable with microSD card express. And the cons: not an OLED panel, shorter battery life, slim exclusives at launch, hand fatigue without grips, expensive accessories, and the game chat will be behind a paywall at some point. With those in mind, let's talk about the competition. Nintendo isn't the only one doing a handheld this time around, and the PC handheld side, we have some steamy contenders, like the Steam Deck OLED, ROG Ally, and Lenovo Legion Go S. All pack more power and flexibility, but they're bulkier, drain faster, and lack Nintendo's exclusives, mostly at higher price tags. So if you want Mario, Zelda, or Pokemon, Switch 2 is really the only game in town. I'd recommend checking out the Steam Deck OLED or the Lenovo Legion Go S. Those are my two favorite picks right now. And after these 75 days, I've picked out a few different accessories that I really do like. The Pro Controller is not a must-have. It's a decent controller, but there are way better and cheaper controllers that work with the Switch already. These links will be down below. The 8BitDo Ultimate 2 or the FlyDigi Vader 4 Pro are fantastic additions. I'll leave my lineup of top 5 that work with the Switch 2 down there. I'd also recommend, if you're playing this thing portable, to get a grip case. I really like playing the Switch 2 portably because I think the screen is actually pretty good with HDR and VRR. It just feels very solid, but I definitely need grips on the back to, after an hour of playing this thing, you can definitely feel your bottom two fingers are a little sore. But just like the Switch 1, there's going to be a million different accessories for this thing. And speaking of accessories, you're going to need a micro SD card express. You just need one, so budget for that. And if you want video in game chat, any USB-C webcam will work. I like the Logitech ones. There are also the first-party ones from Nintendo, or you could get one from dirt cheap on eBay. Those are my favorite accessories for right now, and the affiliate links are down below. They really do help out the channel. After 75 days with the Switch 2, I'm convinced it's an evolutionary rather than revolutionary step in the right direction. The bigger screen, faster hardware, and social features make it the best Nintendo hybrid yet, and the early sales numbers show that fans actually agree. Still, the battery life at full tilt and LCD screen do hold it back, and the limited exclusive library means Switch 1 owners could wait for a future OLED model with more games on the list if you really want to. But if you love Nintendo's games or missed the original Switch, this one's definitely the console to get. Otherwise, check out the review of the handhelds we have here, and leave your current handheld pick in the comments. And hey, you remember that giveaway? We hand out a console every month, and all you have to do is subscribe. And the custom Switch Lite could be yours. All you have to do is check the community tab for the winner at the end of each month. That's all I've got. Davey out.